Hey everyone, it's TonySA here again with Turbo Track, the 17th out of 18th track that we did for the time trial tournament. And once again, I'm unfortunately commentating on this alone due to just scheduling conflicts with other usual commentators busy with school and exams and things like that. So yeah, this is going to be just me commentating for Turbo Track. Not really a lot to say about the track. It's just Slide Coliseum but on steroids. It's kind of like the kind of track that I would make if I was like 8 years old and you said, okay, here's a CTR level editor, you know, what would you do? I would just like be like, turbo pads everywhere. And not just any turbo pads, they're Sacred Fire turbo pads as well, so you can get the max speed from it. So yeah, there's not really anything beyond that to this track except for there's 3 strict sort of like hairpin turns which we had to deal with, and the only way to deal with those turns really is to do air braking, which is a feature that carried over to the Nitro Fueled game as well, and it somewhat works here but slightly differently. But yeah, without further ado, let's count down to start the video in 3, 2, 1. We have Mayo Doctor again to thank for designing the layout for this one. Pretty much copied my layout but just like changed the text and obviously did the rendering, so I appreciate that. Yeah, so there's not really going to be much to talk about because it's essentially just each racer going from one speed pad to the other speed pad just repeatedly over and over again. Trying to get around the turns as tightly as possible is a big deal. We can see, I think I'm currently in the lead at the moment, so I'm just about to, oh no, Psychic Gamer's in the lead. Psychic Gamer with a clean first lap ahead of me at this point. It's a really difficult track to see who's like where in position because of just how many, how everywhere looks exactly the same. So it will be a little bit easier for me to commentate when it gets to the sort of more close-up looks at the racers. Because as of right now, it's a little bit difficult to tell who's where. I'd say that Nintendo Gen didn't take very long to slam into a wall to go into his flat mode, which does not give him any benefit. Of course, it makes it more difficult. Mum and Nina struggling to do the hairpin turns as you'd kind of expect from players of their skill level. Crystal Fisher just starting the final lap, as is Yoga, who's also must have slammed himself into a wall at some point. It's a very, very close race between Luke, myself and Psychic for first place currently. We're all in roughly the same area. Psychic looking like he's just slightly ahead of me. Again, with the way that like just emulation like differs between computers, you can see that Psychic actually crossed the line before I did, but I got a slightly faster time. So again, just emulation can skip frames, which is why that sometimes does not make sense. Yoga and Crystal Fisher just finishing there. Luke's also done. Brandon just crossing the line. Yeah, it's a short track. That it's not. There's not much to it, right? So even like the players that are in last place right now, they're not ludicrously far behind the players in first place. Like usually they can be like a minute behind, but you're talking like 20 seconds this time. So it's a lot shorter, and not so bad for those players that couldn't keep up. Again, if this is how Mayo edits it, I believe that these are the top 6 finishers of this track as opposed to necessarily overall, although I think they match the overall top 6 as well. So yeah, it'll be one to watch between particularly myself and Psychic, even though like it's a little bit inaccurate showing on the video where we finish, but I guess you just have to imagine that I'm like a couple of frames further ahead than I actually am, to make it a fair comparison. I was with Cola Pro at the time when we did this track, and yeah, he was a little bit disappointed with how he did at the time. He kind of did the last 4 tracks just in one attempt, without like any practice, so this was one of those tracks he did without any practice, so he actually thought that this one would be a bit more of a breeze than it was. He had a little bit of problems on some of the hairpin turns. But I specifically practiced air braking for this track because I knew without it I would just be slamming into the wall all the time, which I believe happened to me on the first lap, but lap 2 and 3 went a little bit better. Tight turn from Cola there. Marcus also with the very hard job of just trying to hop with Oxide around the turns, being a bigger character. Luke, I didn't actually realise he must have slammed into the wall at some point on lap 2. Yoga as well, so a lot of the modded characters are pancakes. We all know how much Crash loves his pancakes in the canon. Oh, I guess it's not canon anymore since Toys for Bob made Crash War. Overriding all the wondrously shit stories that we got from the Xbox Crash games. Approaching the last couple of bends for myself and Psychic and Luke. Luke's a couple of seconds behind at this point. Looks like Coda's the furthest behind. He's just coming up to the U-turns now. MTB about to cross the line. And yeah, Yoga a little bit disappointing for this track. He's getting like quite high times for these laps. And significantly more for Cola. Over a 2:04, so yeah. He's not usually that far behind the top runners, but it is what it is, I guess. Top 6, not top 6, middle, not 6, middle, whatever, middle couple, and then Cola Pro as a tack on, just due to being lazy with masking. I think this was, I wasn't really able to pay much attention in the first run through, but I think Mayo Doctor may have done the best out of the racers in this particular section, and it's just fun watching Desert and Mayo synchronized headbutting into the hairpin turns there, which you can expect. Without air braking, you've got the only other choice really is to drive around them without getting a turbo pad, so that you can just either very easily power slide around or just, you know, hop around. But the optimal way is to try and maintain speed, and with air braking, if I'm not mistaken, if Lupa was here he'd be able to clear it up, but I think if you brake while in the air you don't reduce your speed, but if you brake when you're touching a surface then it acts as it actually should, but it's actually braking you the correct way. Mayo faceplant in the middle fence there. Desert one turn ahead of him now thanks to that. I guess Cola Pro wasn't a top 6 finisher then overall, because looking at it here he's a little bit behind a couple of the runners, including like even Crystal Fisher's ahead of him at this current moment in time, and he's about level with where Dr. Monkey Man is, slightly ahead. So it might just be the top 6 overall that he's done for that instead of the top 6 finishers of this track, unless Cola Pro just has a really good final lap to help him overtake some of the other racers. Lucas and Monkey Man are really close, just like they've been all tournament. You've got a 46-46, Monkey Man and Lucas first lap, 43-44 for the second lap. So it's pretty tight between those two. That I believe, like if you was to have like a 1v1 with those two, it'd be a really close tournament. I think Desert Monkey actually took the cake there. I thought it was Mayo, but it's actually Desert that takes the cake from this section. All by Mayo. Fisher, Brandon Black almost mocking the tournament by just very casually sliding through the line there. Monkey Man had a good last lap, which actually I think maybe took him above Cola Pro. I'm not sure, I'll have to check. It was pretty close between those two in the end. Dante Fanta continuing a slightly poorer set of tracks recently. I say recently, I guess like basically before Papu's Pyramid, Dante was, you know, doing pretty well, and then after Papu's Pyramid, it's kind of fell away a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Alright, we finish with the bottom 3, 4, 5, bottom 5. They've been pretty much frequently bottom 5, occasionally Dead A and Nintendo Gen, and even Space Weeb at one point. Those 3 bottom guys have actually escaped the bottom couple on a few occasions, but generally speaking, for 75% of the tournament, this has been pretty much bottom 5 consistently. Nintendo Gen joining obviously Mystery Case, but like I think even if Nintendo Gen had have joined from the beginning, I think we'd still be looking at his position being roughly the same spot. Mum only just starting the second lap, that's a little bit behind everybody else pretty much, who's already been on the second lap for 20 seconds, something like that. And yep, so what we're seeing is Dede and Space Weave doing the occasional boost. Nintendo Gen and Mum like really taking it as leisurely as can be expected. Just going from one boost to the other boost. You can see here, yep. Oh, okay, Nintendo Gen with a bit of a better power side that time. It was quite wide, but at least he made the turn without too much issue there. Nina off onto the grass, not optimal of course. Space Weave just entering his final lap, he's ahead of the bunch at the moment. Nintendo Gen and Nina and Mum all entering the final lap at roughly the same time. I think, oh, is Dede ahead actually? No, Dede's also kind of around the Nintendo Gen sort of time. Got a 51-second first lap, which is pretty terrible. Mum bouncing off the tyres there, that looks a bit unintentional. Lost quite a lot of speed taking this turn. It might be enough to force her into last place because all of the other racers are already going through the hairpins. Dede just finishing the hairpins as the Space Weave. Nintendo Gen as well, Nina as well. Mum now just finishing the hairpin turns. Space Weave first across the line. Could it be Nina next actually? This should be interesting. Yeah, okay. Nina actually getting quite a good finish there. Nintendo Gen going off the track. Well, not going off the track, but going out of bounds from what the game wants you to be. So the Aku Aku had to save him. I think Nintendo Gen was quite a bit behind there, okay. Alright, so this was the only track in the tournament that I managed to claim first place on with a 150. Very, very narrowly beaten Psychic Gamer. What a rivalry for first place that was, in like a half a second in it really. Then Luke in third place with a 153. MTB in fourth place with a 156, Desert Monkey JK in fifth place with a 156, one of his better finishes of the tournament. Sixth is kind of standard for Mayo at this point, he's doing really well ever since the engine change, a 158, minus Cortex Castle, which was abysmal. Crystal Fisher in seventh place with a 204, narrowly behind him was Yoga with a 204, so Fisher beating Yoga on this time around. Brandon Black with a 208, Dr. Monkey Man with a 210, Cola Pro 11th to 11, Lucas 215. It's a low spot for Cola Pro really. Space Weave 216, Dante Fanta 217, then Nina 15th with a 220, good for her. Dede 224, Mum 227, and then Nintendo Gen 64 with a 229 sitting at the bottom. I believe this is the only time that he has finished last out of every single race so far that he's been a part of. So yeah, a little bit of a shake-up there. Luke and MTB consistently positioning in top 6, but Yoga has dropped the ball on a couple of tracks, but his earlier form has just ensured that he's going to stay in the top spot, as we can see here. 378 points with one track to go. I believe the only way that he could lose out to Luke here would be if he finished like in last place or next to last place and Luke won. So Luke has 358 in second place, Sidekick in third with 347, MTB in fourth with 296. It's quite a distance between those two races as well. Cola Pro in fifth with a 276. I'm not going to catch him in one track, I don't think. I have 267 in sixth. Mayo with 208 in 7th, Brandon Black 188 in 8th, Desert Monkey in 9th with 187, just a point behind taking Brandon. 10th place is Fisher 178, Al 11th 146. He may even stay there, he may not be overtaken despite not being in quite a few tracks at this point. Dr. Monkey Man moving from 14th to join Dante Fanta on 13th with both 134 points, that's pretty good. Chambers dropping down another spot, 134 points, but he's sharing, three people sharing the same points there. Lucas 117, Nintendo Gen 64, 78 points in 16th. 17th Dede, 76 points. Moving up from 19th to 18th is Kazu, 51 points, taking over Looper. And then Mum with 40 points in 20th, and 21st is Nina with 34 points. Alright, I definitely need to have some water after speaking through that entire 13 minutes at the speed that you have to keep up with all that action. Turbo Track, probably one of the boring tracks to talk about. I tried my best to make it, what's the word, educational, not educational, informative. But yeah, it's pretty difficult with the source material. But luckily we're going to end on one of the better tracks in the game, or one of the more interesting tracks in the game. It's Oxide Station. That will be the final commentary I'm going to do for the tournament. That will be the wrap up. There may be a what if video with Looper and Chambers, who said that they were interested in doing a what if they had actually finished the tournament kind of episode. And then we'll move on to Nitrofield potentially. So yep, thank you for watching. Join us next time for Oxide Station, which should be up next week, and then we can say goodbye to this tournament. Bye. Bye.